Hello, curious minds. Welcome back to the next phase of our journey, which is data visualization using Jupyter. I'm very hopeful that you are enjoying this journey of becoming a generative AI professional. We are looking to build ourselves as an industry ready professional, and we are absolutely on track of it. For everyone who is joining this journey for the first time, please visit the links in the description to know the previous milestone where we have covered basics of data science and machine learning and installation of Python in local computer. If you are already aware of these topics, then hop on with us. We are presently building our knowledge on Jupyter server and we are going to see data visualization using Jupyter. Data visualization is one of the primary reasons why data scientists prefer Jupyter notebooks. The eye-catching visualizations that can explain a ton of data in one picture. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it is so very true in data science world, which deals with lot of data all the time. So our objective for this session is to visualize a set of data values. Let's say we have a data set which has two lists. One list is a value of x with a value 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and we have a value of y which are 1, 4, 7, 16 and 23. These values in y are roughly the squares of the values in x except for some exceptions. So we want to plot these two data lists over a graph. Let's plot the axis lines and let's plot the axis points. So our first coordinate, which is 1, 1, will be plotted like this. And the second one, which is 2, 4, will be plotted like this. The third one, 3, 7, goes like this. And then fourth one, which is 4, 16, goes like this. And finally, 5, 23 will be plotted like this. So this is the final plot that we want to draw in our Jupyter notebook using Python libraries. Not only this, we might want to draw a line over it as well to understand the data trend better. So let's get to the lab and implement it in Jupyter notebook. And before we head to the lab, be ready to meet our dear friend and enemy, the jargon dragon. We are going to see few jargons in the lab, but worry not. We will conquer this dragon with our simplistic approach like always. So let's go to the lab and get started with visualizing our data in Jupyter Notebook. Alright, let's start the Jupyter server by going to the start menu and let's click Jupyter server. Okay, the Jupyter server has started. We'll just wait a minute for the screen to refresh. Alright, we can see that the Jupyter notebook has started and it has two projects as of now, project 1 and project 2. In our last session, we have created a directory called my data science projects, and these are the same project 1 and project 2 which we are seeing on our Jupyter server. Now let's create a new directory for our new data visualization project. Let's call it project data visualization. All right, so this directory, if we go back to Windows Explorer, we can see that the directory is created here. All right, let's go back to Chrome. Let's go in the project directory. Let's create a new notebook, and initially this notebook will be called as untitled, and it will ask to select a kernel. We have seen in our last session what kernel is. and what are the power that kernel gives us. Let's rename the notebook to, let's say, NB data visualization, our notebook to data visualization. When we rename it, and again just to cross check, if we go to our Windows Explorer, we can see that the notebook is created as well. All right. So we just don't want to start coding immediately. We want to give a nice start to the notebook. Let's call it print my data visualization notebook. And if we run it, all right, so this tells us that this notebook is for data visualization. But as we can see that this print statement is not really visually appealing. The Jupyter notebook with its different features provides us capabilities to create visually appealing notebooks, and that is the very reason we are using Jupyter notebook. We want to create notebooks which are visually appealing to the end user, and this takes us to the very first jargon, which is markdown cells. So let's understand what markdown cells are. So a markdown cell, unlike the code cell, is to make the output look more prettier. The way to convert a cell to a markdown cell is by changing it from code to markdown, and then we can always remove the print statement, and whatever we want to print as a markdown cell, we have to just put a hash at the beginning of it. And if we run it now, all right, so this header is far better than the header with the print statement. I think there is a typo here. Let me correct the spelling. All right, so this header is far prettier, far appealing than the normal print statement. So this is our data visualization notebook, and we can always have different type of markdowns. So instead of, let's say, one hash sign, if I put two hash sign, so two hash signs will bring the font to a smaller size. Let's call it my smaller font sized header. All right, now you can observe here that this is printing in green, and because this cell is still a code cell, Jupyter is thinking that this is a Python code which we are trying to write, and in Python all comments begin with a hash sign. So if I run this, it will do nothing because it is just a code cell with a comment. If we want to convert it to markdown, all we will do is change it to markdown and then run it again. All right, this is a smaller, and if we keep changing the code to markdown, and if we keep appending the hash sign, then it will keep reducing the font size. My smallest font sized header. Let's see what happens. All right, so the font size is reducing. Not only this, you can always change the font color as well. So markdown cells are very much compatible with almost all the HTML tags. So let's use the HTML tag div, and all right, and let's try to change the font color with the help of this. So let's call it div style is equal to color, let's say blue. All right, and let's put a hash at the start of it, and let's put some text inside it. Let's call it my blue colored font header, right? And let's run it. All right, so you get an idea of what markdown cell is. A markdown cells in Jupyter notebook will help us to create beautiful notebooks, and that means that we are able to conquer the markdown cells dragon now. Let's move back to the notebook and let's clean up the notebook. So I'm going to delete the cells with the shortcut key D. All right, so we are back to the header. Let's create a new cell with the shortcut B, and The next thing that we want to do is we want to plot this graph. So first thing that we want to do is we want to store the value of x in one or the other data structure. In Python, the data structure that we are going to use is called list. So the way to create list in Python is you type in, let's say the variable name is x, a square bracket defines a list in Python. All right, and we can always put the values in the list 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. All right, if you run this, it will declare a variable of type list with the values of 1 2 3 4 and 5. Similarly, we can have the values for y as well, which was 1 4 7 16 and 23. All right, let's run this as well. And if we want to see the value of x and y, we can always do print x, print y, and then there are a lot of variation of printing the statements. All right, so we can see the value of print x and y on the screen. So the next thing that we want to understand is for printing, instead of we building our own Python code, there are libraries in Python which we can use, and that takes us to the next jargon, which is Python packages. So what is a Python package? A Python package in its most simplistic form is just a Python code that we can reuse in different notebooks or in different programs. But before we use something which is already provided by Python, let's create our own package to see how this concept works. Let's say instead of using this print statement, I want to have my own print statement, my print, and then whatever value I give, it should print. All right, as of now, of course, my print is not there, and I want to define this my print so that I can reuse it at different places. So what I am going to do is we can create a package in the Python notebook. So let's zoom out. Let's go to the home screen and let's create a new Python file which will be our package as well. So this file is called as untitled as of now. First of all, let's rename it to my first package. Let's call it my first package. All right, you can see in Windows Explorer in our project directory, my first package.py is created. All right, let's say I want to define my own myPrint function, right? Let me zoom it. All right, and let's say I will define a function with the keyword def myPrint, which will take a variable or argument, let's say message. Python is very much indent oriented, so we have to keep the indentation correct. And let's say inside this I will say print, and I will just put a prefix to the print statement, printing from my print function, let's say. All right, and comma message. All we will do is save the file, we will close and come back to our notebook. Now we want to make use of this myPrint function that is defined in our package called my first package. What we are going to do is we will create a cell above, we will say import my first package. All right, let's run it. We have imported the package. We can always call the function like my first package dot myPrint of x. Let's see if it works this time. All right, we can see that it worked this time, and we can also see a prefix that is added to the print statement, printing from myPrint function and the value to it. So that means that we are now able to get rid of our second jargon of the session, which was Python packages. All right, let's move on. Let's clean up this bit. Right? We just wanted to understand what package is. Let's delete the cell and let's delete this as well. We don't need it. And let's now import a library which will help us in plotting the graph. The name of the library that we are going to use is called pyplot, which is present in matplotlib. So we will say import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Plt is just an alias that we are creating for this long name. Let's run the cell. Okay, so we are able to import the library. Just in case if you don't have this package installed in your Python, you can use pip install matplotlib to install the package. Pip basically means Python installer package, and this is the command that we can use to install any existing Python package which is available on pypy.org site, or even you can have your own repository and you can import the package from there. So in case if you are getting error while importing matplotlib, all you have to do is run this command pip install matplotlib. Okay, in our notebook we have the plt available. So let's plot the diagram now, and the command is pretty simple. Plt.plot. We want to plot the x and we want to plot the y. Let's give the plot a label. Let's call the label as line maybe. Let's put a color as well as blue, and then let's put one more. Let's call marker. All right, so these are different parameters. There are many parameters that matplotlib will provide us. Let's run the cell and see if it is able to plot the graph. All right, so we can see that the graph is plotted. Let me zoom out. All right, so we can see that the graph is plotted with a line type. The color is blue and the dots or the markers are of the shape O or dots. This is not the only graph that matplotlib provides us. We can always have plt dot, let's say, a scatter plot, and we can use the same number of arguments, or even more. If we go to documentation, then there are more arguments that we can make use of. If we run this, then we can see that instead of putting a line, it has just created the dots like a scatter plot. We can always change the color to, let's say, red, and let's say we will change the marker to, instead of dot, we will mark it to cross. Let's run it, and we can see that the plot now has a red cross on it. So with this, we are now able to understand the data visualization capabilities that Jupyter is giving us. And this is very important in our next session, where we are going to pick up our very first machine learning use case. We are going to import packages, we are going to input the data, and we are going to visualize it, and finally make our first end-to-end machine learning use case. So this is getting very interesting now. I'm very happy to step into the machine learning world with all of you. See you in the next session, everyone.